Hello, hello, friends, family, followers, all the things. I'm just going to make sure that I'm going live and that you can actually hear me. If you are there, please say hello. I always love to know who is on a live with me, but I will get into it relatively quickly. Okay, I'm live there. Lovely. I'm going live in 3 spots today. One is on my normal feed. The other one is in my business page. And the last one is in a private members only group that I run. So let me just check that I'm live in all of these spaces. Yes, it looks like I'm live in there. And also last place. Hello, I can see someone watching. If you're there, please say hello. This is going to be a live I'm going to do on all the political parties. Really, what I've found is that when a lot of people go into voting, they go in and they have no idea about all the different political parties and what they actually stand for. And what we can do, unfortunately, is we vote with the parties that are familiar to us, the parties that feel like well, we know the most, so we vote with them because it's better we vote for something we know than something we don't know. And quite a lot of the smaller parties and those independent parties actually support things more aligned with us, but because we don't hear much about them, in all honesty, most political parties are quite terrible at communicating what they stand for and what they don't stand for. And so when we go into the polls, we're going in not knowing what they're about, and quite often we are voting in a way that actually is detrimental, or the opposite way that then we actually really want to be voting. So I'm going to do this live and go through there's quite a lot of topics at the moment that I guess hot topics at the moment for policy or politically or socially going on at the moment. But I want to share what the different political parties, whether they are for or against those particular policies or values, and let you be able to go into the polling and your voting knowing exactly what you're going to be voting for. Quite often you might find there are independent political parties that you don't even hear about. And when you get into the polling place, you don't know anything about them, but they actually are very aligned with the value systems that you have and the things that you find are important. So it's better to have the knowledge going in to make your vote count, to make it really quite powerful, rather than just voting with what's familiar. You're going to be voting with what aligns to you and your own values. So I do have there's a table. This was not created by me. This was created by Gaia Mitchell, and it's been compiled to just show you really simply what each of the political parties are for or against. So I will share that with you now. Where are you? No, that one would be better, so you can see the screen better. Okay, you should be able to see that screen now. I'll just have to pop over to my other screen so you can see what I'm actually doing. So you should be able to, if I've done it correctly, see my cursor on there. If you can see my cursor on there, just let me know, and I'll widen this screen so it covers more of the screen for you. Okay. All right, there's the table. You should be able to see it. Okay, yep, I can see my cursor going there. I'm sorry I won't be able to see your comments because I've got it covered up with this particular screen for now. So if you do have any comments or questions, please pop them in. And when I pop back, I can have a look at those comments and let you know. So for instance, I do want to preface though with saying I am not here to in any way persuade you to vote in a particular way. I am not here to ask you or give you any inclination of any particular political party. There is nothing like this. This is a totally neutral ground. This is a space where I just want to share the information with you so that you have the knowledge and you have the information you need to be able to vote in a way that's important and meaningful to you and your family. So these are the top here of this guide are the different topics that are quite big in terms of what's talked about in policy and in politics at the moment. And they are climate policy, they are the ICAC, so that's the Independent Commission Against Corruption. It's immigration and refugees is a big topic, women's rights is a big one. And if you are someone who looks at what happens in America, the politics that happens in America, you would see that this would be a big one that will be coming to Australia quite soon because we tend to follow suit after America does stuff. Also LGBT, community, Medicare, the welfare system, drug reform, First Nations Australians, and so that would also be First Nations and Aboriginal rights, housing affordability, animal welfare, and the NDIS. So the NDIS is the National Disability Insurance Scheme. And at the end, they've just put a website grade in terms of how easy it was to navigate through their website. But that's not really a massive issue for what we're talking about today. So I just want to go through each of these different policies or topics and just let you know what particular party is in support of and what is against. And what you'll find is that there are some parties that we're not sure exactly what they stand for. So for instance, there is these ones which has no ticks and no crosses in it. So we don't actually know what they stand for, but we know they will be running in the election. Now, I do want to also say this was compiled by a single person. So if you do want to find more about these particular parties, please do your own research into their own policies on each of these topics as well, or you can just go and have a look to see what they've said they're going to support or not support. So let's start with climate policy. So in climate policy, you have the Animal Justice Party, Australian Democrats, Australian Greens, Australian Labor, Australian Progressive, Australian Values Party, Australian Health Party, David Pocock, Drew Pavlou's Democratic Alliance, Fusion, Indigenous Aboriginal Party of Australia, Informed Medical Options Party, Kim for Canberra, Reason Australia, Rex Patrick Team, Socialist Alliance, Sustainable Australia Party, the Local Party of Australia, TNL, and Victorian Socialists. They are in support of climate policy. And in a second, I will go through who actually actively oppose it. After a sip. Okay, so the Australian Citizens Party oppose climate policy. So does the Liberal Democratic Party, Pauline Hanson's One Nation, and the United Australia Party. The other parties involved are not clear on their stance on climate policy. Next, we're going to move over to the Independent Commission Against Corruption. So let me say that again. Independent Commission Against Corruption. These are the parties who support it. That is Animal Justice Party, Australian Democrats, Australian Greens, Australian Labor, Australian Progressive, Australian Values Party, Centre Alliance, David Pocock, Andrew Pavlou's Democratic Alliance, Federal ICAC Now, Fusion, Jackie Lambie Network, Kim for Canberra, Reason Australia, Rex Patrick Team, Seniors United Party of Australia, Socialist Alliance, Sustainable Australia Party, the Local Party of Australia, TNL, and then the ones who oppose the ICAC, the Independent Commission Against Corruption. So the ones who oppose it is the Liberal Party of Australia and the National Party of Australia. Now, the reason I know some of you may be thinking, I could just go through this list myself and have a look. I do want to recognise and acknowledge that there are people who like to do things differently. So I'm merely offering another media for people to find out which parties are in alignment with their own particular values and what they think is important. So I wanted to provide a video and an audio for them rather than just a graph in itself. So if you prefer the graph, you can actually find it. I will pop it in the comments, the link where you can find this particular graph. Give me 1 second and I'll pop it straight into the comments. Okay, I've popped in the comments where you can find this graph, and you can go and check it out too if you'd prefer just to have a look at the graph. Otherwise, I'm going to keep talking. I will keep talking through this table for those of you out there who like to watch video and hear the words as well. Okay, let's get back into it. Give me a second to pop back into the screen. Okay, let's move on to the next topic, and that is on immigration and refugees. These are the political parties who support immigration and refugees. That is the Animal Justice Party, Australian Citizens Party, Australian Democrats, Australian Greens, Australian Progressive, Fusion, Kim for Canberra, Reason Australia, Socialist Alliance, TNL, and Victorian Socialists. The political parties who oppose immigration and refugees are the Australian Values Party, Centre Alliance, Jackie Lambie Network, Liberal Party of Australia, National Party of Australia, Pauline Hanson's One Nation, the Great Australia Party, United Australia Party. Okay, now women's rights. The political parties who support women's rights are the Animal Justice Party, the Australian Democrats, Australian Greens, Australian Labor, Australian Progressive, David Pocock, Darren Hinch's Justice Party, Fusion, Kim for Canberra, Reason Australia, Socialist Alliance, TNL, Victorian Socialists. The political parties who oppose women's rights are Australian Christians, Informed Medical Options Party, the Katters Australia Party, Pauline Hanson's One Nation, the Great Australia Party, and that is all for women's rights. I'm just going to pop back and see if there are any comments coming in. Okay, I've got a request. Send me the table. Your old eyes aren't working. Yep. Okay. Well, I've put the link there, but I'll also send you the link to that table as well. Okay. Let's head back over to the screen and move on to the next topic. The next topic is LGBT. So that is the LGBT community. Let's get into it. What are the political parties that support the LGBT community and their rights? And that is the Animal Justice Party, the Australian Democrats, Australian Greens, Australia Progressive, David Pocock, Darren Hinch's Justice Party, Fusion, Kim for Canberra, Reason Australia, Socialist Alliance, TNL, and Victorian Socialists. The political parties who oppose LGBT community and rights are the Australian Christians, Katter's Australia Party, Liberal Democratic Party, Pauline Hanson's One Nation, and that is all. The next topic we're going to cover is Medicare, and these are the political parties who are in support, active support of Medicare. Here they are. Okay, the Australian Citizens Party, Australian Democrats, Australian Greens, Australian Labor, Australian Progressive, Australian Health Party, Drew Pavlu's Democratic Alliance, Fusion, Kim for Canberra, Reason Australia, Seniors United Party of Australia, Socialist Alliance, Sustainable Australia Party, TNL, Victorian Socialists. The political parties who oppose Medicare are Liberal Party of Australia, and that is all. I'm going to pop back over to the comments. Where are your comments? Okay. No more comments have come through. If you have any questions, please send them through. Okay, let's get back to it. The next one is the welfare system. After I have a quick sip of my coffee. Okay, the political parties that are in support of the welfare system are Australian Greens, Australian Labor, Australian Progressive, Fusion, Kim for Canberra, Reason Australia, Socialist Alliance, Sustainable Australia Party, TNL, and Victorian Socialists. The political parties that oppose a welfare system are Australian Values Party, Liberal Democratic Party, Liberal Party of Australia, Pauline Hanson's One Nation, United Australia Party. Okay, next thing is drug reform. These political parties are the political parties who support a drug reform, and they are Australian Greens, Australian Progressive, Australian Values Party, Centre Alliance, Fusion, Legalise Cannabis Australia, Reason Australia, Socialist Alliance, Sustainable Australia Party, and the Victorian Socialists. These political parties oppose drug reform. Australian Citizens Party, and I believe that is the only one. It is. Okay. So with the crosses, the ticks and the crosses, these are when they have actively come out and said they are actively in support or actively oppose particular things. Any blank spaces, either they have not talked about it, shared about it, or it is and when there's a dash, so for instance, when there's a dash like this, it means it's actually, they've talked about it, but it's unclear on their stance. So just wanting to explain that a little bit further. Okay, let's move over to the next topic. First Nations Australians. So this is the political parties who are in support of First Nations Australians and their rights. They are Australian Greens, Australian Labor, Australian Progressive, Australian Health Party, Centre Alliance, David Pocock, Fusion, Indigenous Aboriginal Party Australia, Kim for Canberra, Reason Australia, Socialist Alliance, Sustainable Australia Party, the Local Party of Australia, TNL, Victorian Socialists. Okay, I'm just going to pop over, see if there's any comments coming up. There doesn't seem to be any more comments. That is absolutely fine. Let's move over to the next topic, and that is on house affordability. So these are the political parties that support house affordability. They are Animal Justice Party, Australian Greens, Australian Labor, Drew Pavlu's Democratic Alliance, Fusion, Indigenous Aboriginal Party of Australia, Katter's Australia Party, Kim for Canberra, Reason Australia, Socialist Alliance, Sustainable Australia Party, the Local Party of Australia, and Victorian Socialists. Okay, and as you can see, there are no political parties in opposition to affordable housing, yet there are a lot of blank or dashed spaces. So it's unsure whether what their stance are, or they haven't actually spoken or released anything about it. The next topic is on animal welfare. These are the political parties that are in support of animal welfare. They are Animal Justice Party, Australian Greens, Australian Progressive, just had to check that was on the right line, Australian Health Party, Darren Hinch's Justice Party, Fusion, Indigenous Aboriginal Party of Australia, Informed Medical Options Party, Reason Australia, Socialist Alliance, TNL, and Victorian Socialists. Let me just quickly check. I don't think there was any opposition in that particular topic. No, there was no opposition to animal welfare in that line. However, as I just said, that may just mean they haven't addressed it or shared their stance on that particular topic. The last topic that's in this particular guide, these aren't the only topics that we have. These aren't the only social issues or topics that we have. This is just what's been provided in this particular guide, and it's something that is quite active in the political spaces, are these particular topics. Okay, so you have the NDIS. For those of you who aren't aware what that stands for, that's the National Disability Insurance Scheme. And this is a scheme that was built to support people with disabilities in many, many different aspects of their life and care, pretty much. So these are the political parties who are in support of the NDIS. They are the Australian Greens, Australian Labor, Fusion, Kim for Canberra, Reason Australia, Socialist Alliance, and TNL. Just having a quick look, and I'm going to just double check that. I can't see that there's any opposition to the NDIS in that line. Okay, I'm going to also, I hope that has been helpful to you in defining what values you have and seeing what political parties also align with those same values that you have. By going through this, you might have found that there are actually political parties you've never even heard of that are in support of a lot of things that you support as well. I do want to show you this particular website, though, that was created. In the comments, there is a link to this. You can see this exact site. So if you want to check it out for yourself, you can go there to that link. And it just puts a lot of information about voting and, why vote in minor parties or independent parties, why vote for them, what can that actually do, what can that mean. So something it can certainly do, a minor party may not win a seat, but by voting for them, it can give them funding for the next election, show larger parties what you want as the people you want, and they may win a seat, which would be really, really good. And so it just gives a bit of information about the graph, how it was done. So yes, let me pop out of this. Oh, actually at the bottom, there's also the really great resources as well. So right down the bottom, you can actually download that particular party guide that I just did as a PDF if you would like it. It is free, but there is an option to donate. So it has been compiled and a lot of time spent on this by Gaia Mitchell, who's compiled this whole thing. You do have an option to donate when you download, and it could be anything. You know, it's just a way of showing your appreciation for the time of compiling and allowing this information to be accessed freely if you choose it to be that way. Okay, now additional resources. There was this particular one that I wanted to make you aware of, which is this one. It is the theyvoteforyou.org.au. And this is where you can check your local MPs and the candidates and their voting history. So on the ballot papers, there will be one which has particular members to vote for. You can have a look at those members and see their voting history and see how they've actually voted on each of these particular topics. So sometimes you might have people who belong to a certain party, but they may not vote in the way that the rest of the party vote in. So just have a look at what their votes are, how they've done those things. You can check out whether you're actually enrolled in this space here. Make sure you are enrolled to vote. And yes, let's get out of this, shall we? Stop sharing. Let's move you out of the way. Okay. So I hope that has been helpful to you. If you would like any more information on that, like I said, I'm just sharing the information. I did not compile that. Please also use your discernment with that as well. So make sure you know what each of the parties are standing for or against in each of those different topics as well. So they might be for something, but if you have a look at it closer, it might not be in the exact way you would the way your value system works or the way you want it to work here in Australia. So check those things out. Also, don't forget that opposition or support from political parties can change as well. So when all that information was true and accurate for when that guide was created. However, this is an election period and sometimes political parties change their minds about things. So make sure you're well informed about what the current how the current political parties stand today on those topics. So this was just a brief guide really to let you know how a lot of the independent parties are their positions on different topics, on different social issues, different things that impact all of us. So I hope that it has been helpful for you. And just know that your vote really does count. It absolutely does count. It matters. And if you feel that your vote doesn't actually make a difference to you, no matter what way it goes, please know that there are people in marginalized communities and voting can be really very, very impactful on them. The way that people vote can impact those communities greatly. So just keep that in mind when you vote, that it really does make an impact in people's lives. Anyhow, thank you for listening. I hope that's been helpful. And I will be posting more stuff about voting and encouraging people to vote with power and knowledge in the way that aligns to their value systems, who they are and what they want for our country, and not voting just on the familiar. So I'll see you around. Bye for now.